I was getting really damn freaked out by this point. I could feel my heartbeat beating at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. I knew something was screwing up the game, but I had no idea what it was. Serves me right for buying a used game. I checked on Tsunami, hoping that the move hadn't damaged him. But what I saw only scared me more. His sprite's colors were colorless, and he looked sick. Tears of blood were forming around his eyes, and a large crack had appeared in the middle of the scallop shell on his chest. His HP was halved, and someone or something had changed his name to Imposter. I navigated away from Tsunami, now Imposter, and suddenly my character began to walk on its own. My character's pace gradually slowed down as it walked, eventually slowing to a crawl and stopping in the dead center of an empty city. Another green text box came up. Does it look familiar here? It should. This is where you left me to die. Deep in my brain, something stirred. I didn't know what was going on, but something about it started to make a twisted kind of sense. Do you remember the promise you made me, that you would always take care of me? What a worthless sentiment. You never cared. Then I remembered. That was the promise I made to Vincent, and Black City was the city I went to put Vincent into a PC box. The last place I had ever saved. No, this can't be happening. It can't be you, I whispered. Oh, but it is. So you do remember me. Good. This wouldn't have been any fun if you didn't. It was like he could hear me. All those cheats you used, they poisoned me. It hurts. Do you want me to hurt? You seem to. You act like you love me, then you use cheats that hurt me so much, and then you deem them better and leave me to die. You never loved me. You never did. I stammered at the game, not sure of what to say. He was right. How could I have treated him like this? Speechless? Fine. Well then, why don't I show you what it looks like when you neglect a Pokemon? Suddenly, Superior Sprite appeared in front of me, and I only had time to notice that it bore the same dull colors as my Oshawott before the screen was filled with the picture of the Pokemon Sprite. I felt sick to my stomach. The Sprite was a thin, sickly, emaciated Serpent. You could see its skeleton through the skin. Tears of blood ran freely down its cheeks, and it smiled from ear to ear in a slit-mouthed grin. It was covered in cuts and bruises, and an eye. One of its leafy hands, and chunks of skin were missing from it, revealing the bone underneath. It looked like a zombie. It said that it had a scarred nature, and that the original trainer was called Traitor. I tried to turn off my DS, sliding the off switch repeatedly at all sorts of speeds, but the nightmare played on. I was about to be sick when the normal gameplay screen finally returned. Lovely, aren't I? Soon you will look like me. You will suffer as I have suffered. Fight me. Fight for your own life, you liar. And a battle began. I was scared beyond belief at this point, and I knew I had no chance of winning this battle. All I had was a half-dead Oshawott, and it was a tight disadvantage against my powerhouse Superior. I didn't know what would happen if I lost. But when the decaying Superior Sprite came up, the name was glitched out and impossible to read, and it only had a few points of health. I got to go first, for some reason, and when I opened Imposter's, I suppose that's his name now, his attacks, I was confused. They were attacks that I had never heard of, and only one was Water type. The attacks were Drown, Water type, 0 out of 10 PP, Betray, Dark type, 0 out of 5 PP, Leave Me to Die, Normal type, 0 out of 10 PP, and the last attack was called End It, Fire type, 1 out of 5 PP. I had no choice. I selected the fire attack, and the screen was filled with flames all generated from my Oshawott. I could barely see the Superior. It was just a faint black silhouette among the flames, and it immediately disintegrated into nothing. A haunted, heavily distorted Superior cry played. Glitched has died. Glitched has suffered. I hope you are happy in all of your lies. Scrolled across the screen. I was returned to the normal game screen. There was a tombstone where Superior Sprite was. I pressed A in front of it, and it read, You love me, you hate me, you lie to me, you neglect me, you leave me to die, and so I died, betrayed, and hating you. Then the sound disappeared. The screen glitched out and suddenly turned black. I got the save file corrupted message. I was sobbing like a baby at this point, and my attempts to shut the game off were finally successful. Shutting the DS, I slid it back onto my bed and cried myself to sleep. That night I had unspeakable nightmares. The next day, after finally getting calmed down, I did something that, although I didn't like it, I knew it had to be done. There was no sense in putting it off. I had to play Pokemon Black one last time. I had to check on Vincent. Booting up the game and skipping the start sequence, I opened my file and ran to the nearest Pokemon Center. I tentatively activated the PC box and scrolled through to the very last box where my Serperior was, or where he should have been. In the place where I had left him, there was instead a glitched sprite. I couldn't tell what it was, but it certainly wasn't my Serperior. Its name was Farewell. It knew no moves, and all of the stats were too glitched out to read, except for its level. Its level was 0. No, this was not my Serperior. This could not be my Serperior at all. It couldn't be. Letting out a wail, I searched through the rest of the boxes. No Vincent. I searched my party. No Vincent. I was almost sobbing again by this point. He couldn't be gone. He just couldn't. In a desperate last-ditch attempt to find him, I boarded my Reshiram and flew off back to my hometown to visit Professor Juniper. As soon as I got there, there was a grey fog hanging over the town. I disregarded it and walked into the lab to speak with Professor Juniper. Walking up to her, I pressed A. "I'm ashamed of you, Luna." Luna was what I had named my character. "Simply ashamed. Don't bother looking for him. He's gone. He's died. And it's all your fault. He died hating you." I pressed A again, only to receive the same message. That was when I really broke down and cried. My game was ruined. I lost everything that made the games worthwhile, and in my own greed, I lost my Serperior, and I wept bitterly over that loss. He died for me. He died because of me. And he died hating me, and I can't fix it. I never played Pokemon again. It only brought back bad memories. I never told anyone why. I gave away or burned all of my action figures, cards, and memorabilia. I didn't want it anymore. I even gave away all my games, only on the condition that they would not ever delete the files. All of my games except 2. Pokemon Black and Pokemon White. Half the time I don't know why I kept them. I would never play them again for as long as I lived. But if I really think about it, I can come up with a few reasons. The first is that I have the feeling that something about those games is cursed. I never want anyone to suffer through what I had to suffer through. Another is that they have some sentimentality to them. I don't want to let them go because they represent a little bit of what I used to be. And I couldn't bear to destroy them or see them change hands. I suppose it's a bit selfish. Really. But the biggest reason I kept them was as a reminder of what happened. I don't want to forget, despite how horrific it all was. A reminder that it did happen so that I never have to question my sanity. So I never have to think that I might have imagined it all, that it was a fantasy, a cruel trick of a delusioned mind. But mostly a reminder of the lesson I learned, and so I never make the same foolish, selfish mistake again. I couldn't bear to make that same mistake. That's really all those beloved games are now. A reminder of the past. Nothing but a grim reminder.